Hello, everyone. Hello. This is Rashmi from Designhill, your host for the day. And I am so glad to be here again with you guys with another webinar on email marketing strategies for businesses during and after crisis. I hope you all are doing great. And I hope you and your families are keeping well and safe. Again, I would like to welcome you for this webinar. And today's event is brought to you by Designhill, which is world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike, who can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products created by independent artists. Let me introduce our speaker for today. We have Sophia Lee. She is a speaker, award-winning marketer, and a former emergency manager. She loves teaching online owners how to use emails to disaster-proof their brands, and she has been featured on Copy Hackers, iTribble, and Skillshare. Thank you so much, Sophia, for taking out your time and joining me for this webinar today.
Yeah, thanks, Rashmi, for having me. And thank you for everyone joining today. I'm going to go ahead and actually share my screen right now to make sure that you can see everything that I have planned for you. We're going to be talking a lot about email marketing and how you can use it during and after a crisis. And so can everyone see my screen now? Rashmi, can you see my screen?
Yes, Sophia, I can see your screen. But before we start this session, Sophia, can I take 2 minutes and can I quickly introduce Designhill to everyone?
Yeah, of course, please do.
Need to get your parents off your back? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When I started my photography business, I needed something that said, this was more than just a hobby. It's not a hobby, Mom. That's why I went to Designhill and got an amazing logo super fast at a price I could afford. The process was easy using Designhill's logo maker. Just enter the name of your business, then pick out a number of designs that inspire you. I'll pick this one and that one looks cute. Then pick your colors or let the system decide. Add some more info like a slogan, the industry your business is in, and your budget. The logo maker, using machine learning and artificial intelligence, will design thousands of logo variants that you can choose from and adapt. In fact, I was able to get everything from business cards to t-shirt design and complete social media kit, all with the click of a button. With that, I'm all set. Now everyone I meet knows I'm a legit photographer. Even my mom. It's real. That's decaf.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill. Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When my company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project, I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Designhill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Designhill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton of results I'd love. Start by picking a number of designs that inspire you. This one's good, and that one. This one speaks to me. Then share some information about the project. Lastly, pick a package that fits your budget. Do you just want a logo, or do you want it all? Then, boom. I got more than 60 custom design options to choose from, as well as all the other graphic design assets I wanted. And it's all backed by Designhill's 100% money-back guarantee. If I don't find a design I like, I get my money back. You can't lose. Now I have what I need to make a splash at my meetings, with everything from business cards, pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill.
All right, everyone, that was about Designhill. And let's quickly jump into the session, and we will definitely take questions. So feel free to put them in the questions tab. And Sophia, over to you now.
All right, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen. All right, perfect. So here, again, I just want to welcome everyone. Just thank you for taking the time to being here to talk about email marketing. And before I kind of dive in and introduce myself, Rashmi kind of did that earlier. I really just want to spend some time thinking about and talking about, you as a business owner, as a freelancer, or whatever you come here as, thinking about email marketing. And so it says a few things about you, that you're taking the time for the next 45 minutes to come, share your attention with me about email marketing. But I guess before we do that, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Obviously some people of you already, introduced yourself, said your name, but, tell me, your city and country, and then what you hope to learn today. Hopefully we can get those learning objectives nailed out here. But really, I want to, really dive in and understand what attending this talk is about you, because again, you're spending your attention for the next 45 minutes, really understanding what email marketing is. You're taking time out of your very busy day, and it says a few things. And one, it says that you have something really important to say. I think that, no one really expected a global pandemic during this time. It is unprecedented, as they keep saying in the media. You're struggling because you know that you should be saying something, you should be talking to your customers, you should be building those relationships. But sometimes when, bad things happen, we don't know what to say. And so you're trying to really understand that, how to take your emotions and turn it into something valuable for your business. The second thing it says is your personal life is under control, at least like for the next 45 minutes. I don't know about you, but in the United States, everyone here at schools are being shut down. Parents are learning to homeschool their kids for the first time. They have to cook meals. They have to do all these things that they didn't necessarily have to do before because all of the system was working. But now with the global pandemic, we're doing things that we're not expecting. And so at least for the next 45 minutes, your kids are occupied with a book or a video game or what have you. My daughter has a book outside with my husband on a webcam. And so for the next 45 minutes, your personal life is under control, and hopefully mine will be as well. And the last thing it says that you're in fight mode. And so when you're going through a disaster, your brain goes into this fight, flight, or freeze mode. Obviously, flight means to run away. Fight means to, go barging in and say, there's a war here, I'm going to give it everything I got. And then freeze is just kind of what animals do when they are, trying to figure out what the next response is. And so it says to me that you're not obviously running away. You're in fight mode. You're going to get through this situation no matter what the outcome is. And you're ready to learn everything you can. And so with that, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sophia Lay. And the reality is that the reason I'm here is that I really hate disasters. And I know you're thinking, Sophia, everyone hates disasters. But no. I really hate disasters so much that I spent like 10 years studying them. What caused them? Why do they happen? What can we do to make sure that they don't happen again? And so it took me on a journey to graduate school, and I have my degree in emergency management. And then obviously now I was an email marketer. I loved being an emergency manager. I got to do really cool things like work on mudslides and, talk to the public about how they can get prepared for an emergency. But there was something missing of my job. And I'll talk about it later. There are a couple of reasons why I am not an emergency manager anymore. Now I'm an email marketer. But part of it was not really knowing how to take this very important message and get it across to a broad group of people using the marketing techniques that we all know and love, the ones that we have to use as online business owners. We can't just, print a pamphlet and call it good. Like, we have to get attention and hold it and get people to take action and change. And so, this journey took me, to email marketing, where I was building relationships with my constituents. I was working with the best and the brightest marketers like Ryan Dice and Joanna Weave. And then eventually, it took me here. So with that, it's my life's work. I'm so honored to be able to share it with you. And I'm really looking forward to, discussing email marketing with you. And so with that, I'm actually going to go into the chat really quick and see where people are coming from. All right, we have, let's see, Aviola, I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, in Rosa Dominica, which is in the Caribbean. That's awesome. St. Lucia, awesome, more Caribbean. Peru, oh, okay, public information officer. Yeah, awesome. You're speaking my language. That's awesome. Let's see, we have Maryland, from Slovenia. Let's see. Hi, Kampala. Honduras, El Salvador, Bolivia, all around the world. I love this. I spent some time in Vietnam, and so I love that we are in a world where we can all come together despite where we are in the continent or in the world. So with that, I'm going to go back to my screen. All right, and so obviously you can get a hold of me there if you want to talk about it, but I really want to, sit there and talk about, some of you in the chat mentioned that, you're talking about how to actually generate leads. And so we're going to talk about that as well. But really, we're going to talk about, why email works for building customer relationships. The first thing I want to say about that is that everyone knows that email is really important, but it's kind of on the back burner of our to-do list. And so we want to talk about why, because if you don't understand why, you can't do the how. And then we're going to go through 5 questions to ask before you start writing an email. And so this is obviously for during and after a crisis, but you can use this framework to actually do welcome emails or to generate leads. And it's a great framework regardless, but it is specific for crises at this point. And then let's say you're, a brick and mortar business or have a physical location and you're like, you know what, email is really great and I understand the implications, but I'm not really sure if it's the right thing for me. What if I want to use text messaging or social media or mobile push because I have an app? And so you can use this framework as well for that. And so those are the 3 things that we're going to cover today. You're going to hold me accountable if I don't cover them, and hopefully we'll get some time to answer questions as well. And so before we dive into why email, we're going to talk about what the word crisis means. And so I love this quote from author Stephen Fink. He wrote a book called Crisis Management: Planning for the Inevitable, and it's talking about what a crisis is. So if you look at the traditional view of a crisis, it's like what you said, like disasters are bad. We don't like them. We don't necessarily want them to happen, and so they can negatively impact a business. 40 to 60% of businesses in the United States never open again after a disaster, and so we don't like these things. We want to avoid them as much as possible, and unfortunately, we can't avoid them, i.e., a global pandemic. But what I really want you to understand is that even though we can't avoid them necessarily, they are an opportunity waiting to happen. So it's equal parts danger, equal part opportunity. And so yes, an earthquake can destroy your business. Yes, a global pandemic can keep leads from coming in because they're too fearful to come into your store. But what a great opportunity to do something different. And intellectually we might know that, but it's hard to really understand that, especially when you're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode where you're not really sure what to do. And so obviously, like, you can look at businesses around the world who have, survived a crisis, whether it's a natural disaster or some like PR snafu. I like to use the example of Jack in the Box in the early 90s when they had an E. coli scare and no one wanted to eat at their restaurant because they were afraid. But, as small business owners, you're thinking, those big brands, they go through these things. Those things aren't pertinent to me. What can I do, and how can I use this information about a crisis being equal parts danger and opportunity to actually make something of it? And so this is a picture of me and my husband in 2015. And so I'll tell you a little story. And so I mentioned earlier that I left being an emergency manager. And part of it was, yes, being in government didn't necessarily afford me the opportunity to learn about marketing. But the other one was that my husband was sick, and he's a business owner. He was taking some time off from writing his book and doing his master's degree and running a full-time consulting practice, and went to the doctor, and then they found out that he had a tumor. And so, our life kind of just turned upside down. There were 6 months of doctor's appointments and surgeries and all this uncertainty about what our business was going to look like. And, he was running a thriving consulting business. And I think he was working 2 weeks after surgery, maybe even a week after that. And so, for me, who was a government employee, I had paid time off. I had health benefits to make sure that he could get through his surgeries without, financially impacting us. But if it was just our business, the situation would have looked so much different. And that's what small businesses have to deal with. Not necessarily the big global pandemics or the earthquakes, which happen maybe every 10 years, but, life. Everyone knows someone who's had cancer. Everyone knows someone who's been sick or has been in a car wreck and they can't work. And those are the things that we have to be really cognizant of as small business owners. And, obviously, I'll tell you, the end of the story later on, but, these are the things that we need to be careful of. So with that, I'm going to actually stop sharing for a minute and I'm going to check the chat. Let's see, more messages below. Negative, let's see, negative situations, usually opportunities. Oh yeah, I wanted to make sure that we actually got to a point of, are there any questions so far? Has anyone actually dealt with this during a crisis? Have they, had any situation that has impacted their business so far? Let's see, let me go into the questions. Let's see, both my wife and I.
We have a question that's related to the best email marketing platforms.
Okay, perfect. And so that is, email marketing sounds great. What's the best platform? Great question. Let's see, office contact. I use ConvertKit myself, but kind of depends on what you're trying to do. Are you just trying to send a newsletter? Are you just trying to, do some automations? Are you trying to set up a welcome campaign? And so the ones to just get started that are really affordable are ConvertKit. Also, MailChimp is a really good one. And then for more advanced ones, I would say ActiveCampaign is probably the other one that a lot of small businesses turn to. All right, so I'm going to go back to my screen. I'm going to present again. So no questions so far about the crisis. And so we're just going to keep moving on. And so you might be wondering, well, why did you just tell me about why your husband had cancer? And the reality is that during the situation, I didn't know what to do. And I was a trained emergency manager. I have a degree in managing crisis. And the thing that I could do was that I could alert people. I needed to tell somebody. Obviously, I needed to tell his family or my family or friends and, try to explain to them why we weren't going to Christmas parties or, maybe that they should come to the hospital and visit him. And so what I did was I developed an email. And so I just started emailing everybody to just tell them what was going on. And then that actually became like this whole process that I used in order to alert people during an emergency. And so obviously you're thinking, what does this have to do with my business? Email is amazingly efficient, first off. There's like $42 that you make for every dollar that you spend on email. And, everyone is always checking their email. Yes, they check their phone, but, they're always, getting their phone on their email. The average person checks their email 15 times during the day. And then 81% of people, of small business owners, rely on email as a primary customer acquisition channel. So this makes so much sense from a business perspective in order to use email to not only alert your customers during and after a crisis, but just to build a relationship in general, because the reality is that you cannot talk to people one-on-one, all the time, but you can send them an email. And then that, little touch point will make such a difference during an emergency. Why? Because, people are more likely to trust a person they know or have seen before. And yes, you might think that, yes, they might trust me. They buy my products. They've, made a purchase in the past. But, everyone has gotten an email during this time from a business that they haven't heard from in years. And you're thinking, well, what does this have to do with my situation right now? And so the more that you can build a relationship before a crisis happens, the more likely they can trust you, because familiarity will always trump authority any time of the day. And so we're going to talk through a framework about how to actually write these emails. And so it's called the Single Overriding Communications Objective. This is a framework that actually the Centers of Disease Control uses in order to make sure that their doctors are well prepared to talk to the media before any press conference. And so it really just comes down to understanding 5 questions. 1, what is your primary message? Which really just comes down to what is it that you're trying to say? If you don't know what your goal is, then don't bother sending the email. And in this case, if it's during a crisis or after a crisis, it has something to do with your business. So you might say, we have to shut down, or, there's a discount or what have you. But, really understanding what your goal is will help you understand your primary message. The second thing is, what is it that you want your recipients to do? This is otherwise known as a call to action. And so, a lot of us have gotten emails and sometimes we read them, get to the end of them and say, what is it that you want me to actually take action on? Do you want me to buy something? Do you want me to reply? Knowing what that action you want your recipients to do, maybe it's just to, be aware of something. That's okay. But as long as you establish that, then it makes your email that much stronger. Then it also comes down to the lister segments that need to know this. Everyone has gotten, an email blast, so to speak. We don't like to use that terminology in marketing. It's that spray and pay method. But really, it's really understanding, who needs to know about this. So maybe it's like your customers that need to know about something. Maybe it's your vendors that need to know about something. Understanding the lists and segments makes personalizing the message so much easier, and then your message is more likely to resonate during, a crisis or even before then. The other thing that you want to know is the facts or data that support the message. And so during a crisis, emotions are really charged. Customers are, either angry or they're upset, and they're going to take it out on your brand, and they're going to take it out on your business. And so the more that you can take emotion out of it and put facts or data to support your message, it will be so much more easier for them to argue with you, if that makes sense. And then the last thing is really about who should be sending this message. And what that really comes down to is understanding who the spokesperson is for the message. And so, obviously, if you're a freelancer, you're going to be the spokesperson. But if you're a bigger company that has, like, a CEO and, a couple people, it might be, a message that comes down from the top. It could be, a marketing person, but really understanding who that person is that your customers trust, or whoever list or segment trust, is really essential to making sure that a message sticks during and after a crisis. And so we're going to go through a real life scenario, which is a webinar email reminder. And so obviously this is not a crisis situation, but again, a lot of people haven't necessarily been through a crisis, but we'll just take this situation. And so the primary message, for this particular webinar that we're on, a webinar is happening. And so you want to alert them about, the date, the time, the subject, that sort of thing. And so that's the primary message. A webinar is happening, you should join on, which is the call to action, which is to register. And so you have a button that says register for the webinar. The audience in this case was to be small business owners. And then the spokesperson would be someone like Rashmi, the community outreach specialist, someone who has already built a relationship with you. And then you get to the point where you go, the 3 facts or data points. And so in this case, the facts would be, the time and date, which is it is at July 29th, 2020 at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then the topic is email marketing during and after a crisis. And then objectives are the bullet points that we talked about. So why email works best for building customer relationships, 5 questions to ask before you start writing an email, and how to engage text messaging, SMS, social media, mobile push notifications. And so you'll see right here that, this framework works really well. And so, yes, you can sit there and, be like, well, Sophia, what are the words I'm going to say? What are the subject lines I'm going to utilize? What platform should I use? But reality is, figure out what is it that you want to say first, and then you can determine all those things. And that will help you during and after a crisis, but even just, as you're developing, marketing and leads. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go check the questions tab because I hear it beeping. All right. I'm gonna check the chat really quick. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a little.
It's great to see so much of networking happening in the chat section. People are following each other on Instagram. That's great to see.
Awesome. Let's see. How did you, especially linking the introduction to COVID-19? Labor relations and HR consultancy. Well, I would say that it's probably a good thing because it depends on labor relations and HR consultancy. Can you tell us a little bit more? Sebenego, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. All right. I'm going to go scroll down. Victoria asks, how to arrange a new strategy to attract customers to the tourism industry after COVID-19? That is a great question. I'm not necessarily sure. That's a hard one. I mean, it's so difficult right now to just fly. Again, if you're in the tourism industry, let's say you're Alaska Airlines or something like that, it really is just being empathetic to the situation that's going on right now, and not necessarily because you're looking for something in return, right? What it really comes down to is really understanding the situation. So Alaska Airlines actually just sent a really good email because I have credits with them, and they said, we understand the need for flexibility for your family right now, and so we're letting you use your voucher a year in advance. And so really reducing the risk for them to get on a flight or get on a cruise ship or go on a trip is in your benefit. So maybe you ask them, you pay right now, but and maybe you schedule it for December, but let's say COVID-19 is still happening. And so basically you make that voucher available for the next year and give them the flexibility to reschedule so that they can, take that vacation with their family that they always wanted. And so really coming down to just trying to add value and understanding where your customers are at right now. How to avoid getting in the junk folder. I would just, one, send relevant information. That really comes down to doing lists and segments. And yeah, just sending really good content. Larice, if you could tell us a little bit more about your business, I can help you there. Let's see. Haven't heard from Sebenego yet. Maybe it's in the questions tab. Oh, I think I missed one. Hold on. Is there a CRM for professional relationships? Not keeping track of leads or connections. I think LinkedIn has some functionality built in there. I don't use one myself. I know that, like, depending on the tools that you already use, I'm kind of a fan of utilizing tools that you already have versus getting new ones. So, like, if you use Google Docs every day, then maybe you can use a Google Sheet to kind of keep track of professional relationships. I know that a former emergency manager of mine had a great CRM for professional relationships, and he actually just used the V card on Outlook. And so it had like little, name, email address, phone number, and then like little details that basically said, we met for lunch on this date and they ordered fish tacos or something like that. Just little things that helped him remember things. So that's what he used. But I think it really just comes down to a tool that you are willing to log into every day and maintain. I had a situation at a job where I recommended we control the narrative and send some reassurances to the public, but management decided to ignore it, hoping it went away. Yep, that would happen. Yeah, it doesn't really help to ignore it. That is a crisis communication strategy, but really just being honest and obviously making sure that you can deliver on your promise. And then I'm saying, I'm sorry and I hear you, and making sure that it doesn't happen again. That's what it comes down to. Yep. When do we get to content and strategy? Not necessarily sure that we're going to talk about that today. I have plenty to say about content strategy. Maybe that's next webinar. I'm going to check the questions now. How do I gain more?
We have got this really important question from Shrey, and that's the question which was in my list as well for you, which is how to build awesome email list for a particular niche. Like how should people build their email list? And I think that's the question that most of these people are looking the answer of. So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what it really comes down to when you're building an email list is really understanding what problem your customer is trying to solve. And so let's say for me, I'm an email marketing, expert, so to speak. And so people are going to ask me, how to build an email list. So like maybe I would put together a PDF or some sort of downloadable thing or a series of blog posts on, something that they would care about. Breaking it down into like maybe 3 to 5 steps that they should do. And so really understanding what the problem that they're trying to solve is, what your solution is, and why your solution is better than others. And so Nancy, if you could tell me a little bit about your business, I could be Shrey, you could tell me a little bit about your business and then, or niche, and we can, dive into that. Nancy asks, how do I gain more email subscribers? Really just comes down to value and, making sure that you can be found on the internet. Some people like to do podcasts. Some people like to do, guest posts. I do a lot of guest posts myself and getting, published in places like Copy Hackers or doing a course on Skillshare. You just want to make it easy for people to find you. Yacht sales company. So please address how to effectively email to very wealthy clients. Hello from Florida. Well, what makes them, the fact that they're wealthy is awesome, but like, I would think that there's something about a yacht that makes them, there's a feeling that they get when they want to buy a yacht. It's not like you buy a yacht every day, right? I would think that, what is it? Are they trying to, spend more time with their family? Are they trying to travel more? I'm really understanding what that motivation is for buying a yacht will help you figure out how to, effectively email to them. All right, let's see. Ingrid asked about.
I have a question for you. Can I put it up?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is the question that we'll take, and then after this question, we'll take a quick 2 minutes break, and then we'll jump back. Sophie, a lot of people asked this question while they were registering for this webinar, and it was how frequently should you send email to your customers or to convert leads without irritating them, without irritating your members, so that they don't unsubscribe you. So that's the question that a lot of people were asking. So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what it really comes down to is making sure that for every one sales email that you send, you want to make sure that there's 5 or 6 of them that are not meant to be a sales related email. And so before you ask them, let's say, I'm going to use Shrey as an example, who's a graphic designer. And so maybe she just gives 5 emails about, how to build a logo, or, how to, run a t-shirt contest, or all these other things. So like, creating value for the customer so they feel like, oh, wow, like you gave, something. But and then when you get to the sale, it doesn't necessarily detract away from the fact that, you were giving value to them. So does that make sense? Like giving, sending value before you ask for the sale?
I think that makes sense. And can we also talk about in terms of number? Let's say if I say that how many emails should I send to a customer within a week? Shall I send it every day, or once in 2 days? How frequent? What that frequency should be if we have to talk in numbers?
That's a great question, and I think it's going to depend on the business, because you have people like Ben Settle, who's an email copywriter who sends every day, and he doesn't deviate from his strategy. And there's some people that never send email, and honestly, that's probably more in my camp. I'm a believer in automating stuff as much as possible. And so what I work on a lot of is like onboarding campaigns or welcome campaigns. So things like understanding what actions people are taking to like understand and know your business, and then automating it as much as possible. So when they join your email list, they automatically get a welcome email, and they get 5 emails about, the problem that you solve. And then you let it go after that. And then maybe you use like a monthly thing. But I'm a believer in, if you email your friends every day, go ahead and send them every day. But if you only email them every once in a while, then again, be authentic to what you naturally do as a person trying to maintain relationships, because it will translate over to your business. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the whole session. But before we move forward, I would like to give a quick shout out to Designhill, which is the world's leading creative marketplace, for organizing this event. Let's take a quick break. You can have a sip of water and keep this interesting conversation going on. Stay tuned, and we'll be back to hear more from Sophie Lee.
Clarematics is a full-service video agency based around video production. We created a brand that fit our identity at the time, but as we've evolved as a company, we found that original brand didn't quite fit our aspirations anymore. Finding a partner to rebrand your entire company takes a lot of time and effort. Finding Designhill was an incredible lifeline. Designhill offers a money-back guarantee. If we don't like any of the designs, we get all of our money back. The stuff that we ended up with were well beyond what we had been seeing on other creative services platforms. After creating a simple design brief by answering some questions created by Designhill, we posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Designhill's platform made it easy to communicate with all of the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business cards, and banners for all of our social media platforms. With Designhill's help, we now have a brand that meets our aspirations. We're ready for the future and everything that it's here to bring.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it, and and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on. And it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers. It's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out, and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right, perfect. Should we continue on, or should I just keep answering questions?
I think let's continue, and then we can take question in next 10-15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and represent my screen. And so I guess a lot of the questions are really about, strategy and email marketing and all these other things. And so what I really want you to understand is that email marketing is a tool like anything else. And so email marketing will not necessarily make your business rich overnight because you got ConvertKit or what have you, but you really need to understand what is it you're trying to accomplish with email marketing. It's like, I want, more leads or more sales. And so in that case, email can be a tool to help you do that. And so what I think everyone is kind of talking about is more, lead generation and capture. And so maybe this, information about, text messaging and SMS will actually be more helpful. And so you can use this framework to do that. So, if you don't want to necessarily use email, and if you are a person that doesn't necessarily spend a lot of time on email and you are really good on text messaging, or you have a mobile app, or you're really adept at social media and you're on Instagram every single day. And so there's a framework that you can use to do the same. And so really understanding that if you're going to adopt something like text messaging, you need to understand your character limits. You have, full reign to send, as much information as you want in an email. Whereas in text messaging, especially during a crisis, you're not necessarily going to, have the same, character limits. My boss actually went through a situation where he enabled text messaging on an emergency email alert, and then it, sent backwards to multiple people. So it's on like 10 messages, and basically he got, a lot of angry phone calls saying, why did you do that? And so I'm really understanding that you can get across like a really clear message in text messaging by just using that framework of, flash flood warning this area till 6 p.m., avoid flood areas, check local media. What it really comes down to is, being as succinct as possible if you're going to use something like text messaging. The other thing is about you can always send an update. And so what this really comes down to is that, a lot of government agencies, especially during a crisis, and, you can use this as a business as well, they will always want to send an update, during, a situation like an active shooter. And so you'll notice that this situation from Royal Canadian Mounted Police from Nova Scotia, they are continually using that same framework of, using the primary message, call to action, and then, what is it that you want people to do at this time? And, they repeat that because the information is rapidly changing, especially if they're pursuing, an armed gunman. And so you can always send an update, especially if you're utilizing these platforms. You can do that with email too, but again, you have much more free reign in terms of your body text versus something like Twitter or text messaging. And then the last thing it really comes down to is having a single call to action. And so we talked about it earlier about, what is it that you want your customers to do? And so this is a local frozen yogurt shop. This is actually the most relevant situation. And so obviously, I saw a question about a referral program. And really, there's some businesses that just don't really do well on email, or it doesn't really enter a person's consciousness in order to market to them via email. And so a lot of, places with physical locations use phone numbers, like, you know, drugstores or grocery stores. And in this case, my local frozen yogurt shop. And so, you know, you can go to the link, you can check, you know, your points. You can add your birthday for free birthday frozen yogurt, and you know, all this other things. So you can have that single call to action. But again, you have to just be really careful when you're doing it via text message. And so we covered a lot of stuff. And so again, I want to just go back to the questions and make sure that I actually can answer all of them. So let's see. Isn't finding ways to get email during, can't see the full question. Let's see.
Should I read it out for you?
Yeah, I can't, it kind of trails off. I'm not sure why.
So it says, isn't finding ways to get email during customer contact a great way to jumpstart email marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. Finding ways to get email during customer is a great way to jumpstart. Can you elaborate a little bit more? So, and maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. So hopefully I can get that answered for you. Shrey asked, should you have business email or normal email is okay for email marketing? I would use a business email myself, just from a deliverability perspective. Otherwise, if you use your personal, then you're going to get flagged as spam possibly. And then, you know, the emails that you actually want to send to your friends and family aren't going to get through. And so having a separate email address is always a good idea in general. And, you know, if you own your domain, like I do, sometimes you can just do like hello, which is my actual email, by the way, but I could do like sophia@sophiala.com. So you can do like a customer service or customer support type email situation if you don't want to create a new account. If you own a new domain, that would work. Omar, are good email platforms used for automation? Great question. I would think ActiveCampaign would probably be the best one for small business owners like graphic designers or freelancers. MailChimp has it. I haven't looked at it in a few years, but it was pretty elementary at that point. I'm using ConvertKit right now for myself. It has some automations. It takes a little bit of a learning curve, but you know, the more advanced that you get as a business, the more that you're going to need a more advanced email platform. And so I would say just start with one, especially one that's free or a low cost, and then you're always going to have to move. I do work for a big email service provider, and brands like Coca-Cola are always changing their email service providers like every couple of years. So don't be afraid to try new tools. Shara asked, what's the key to going from little to no engagement with emails to successful email campaigns? I would say a daily habit. You know, make a habit for yourself and really get to the point where, you know, you're writing 15 minutes a day, and you don't even have to write anything that's, you know, dear subscriber, just write. Because if you are a business owner, you obviously have a passion for what you do, right? You know, whether it's yacht sales or graphic design, you do something that's different than other people. And so write down those things every single day. And even if it's 15, if you don't have 15, try 10. If you don't have 10 minutes, then try 5. And so after a week, you're going to have something that you can actually piece together into an email. And I know that sounds really vague, but I'm a big believer, if you have this big goal ahead of you, then you need to do something that's really small every single day. And I think that we as humans want to get, you know, really complicated. Like I always think of exercise. You know, if you know who Tony Horton is, he's a, you know, workout coach. He has a crazy workout program called P90X, and everyone wants to do that, when really they should just be focusing on going for a walk every single day in their neighborhood. And, you know, the walk sounds boring. Like everyone wants a 90-day program to give them big muscles and abs. And the walk is like, what am I going to get from it? But really, those habits are what develop things. And if you have a goal to, you know, read 52 books a year, it's a lot easier to say I'm going to read 10 pages a day versus 52, because it just seems our minds can't make the gap or make the leap. So I would say, you know, try just writing for 5 to 15 minutes a day, and then see if you can piece together an email once a week, and then see if that works. And if it doesn't, then you can try something else. Omar asks about an initial product of luxury goods. How do we use email strategy for a referral program for pre-order? Great question. I mean, it really just comes down to doing something that gives attention. You could, you know, just have a picture of your luxury email goods and run a Facebook ad and then say, you know what, the first 100 people that do this are other email get like 20% off or something like that. Obviously, don't cut your costs if it's going to impact your business, but really think about what is it that is making your luxury goods different than others on the market. And then, using that to advantage in your marketing, because really people want something that's different. They want to see something that they haven't discovered yet. And so that could be, part of your email strategy. Rashmi, how are we doing on time?
We have 10 minutes to go, and I have a question for you, which is asked by a lot of people in my list. So, and I think this is a very important question because, I may have a list of 10,000 people who I send email to, but it does not make sense if nobody opens them and nobody clicks on them. So, how do I increase the open rate of my emails, and how do I improve on the CTR part of it? Can you give some tips and suggestions on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to open rates, you always focus on your subject line first and foremost, because if it doesn't get open, it doesn't get read. And so if something is if you're sending, emails and you're finding that people aren't opening them or the open rate is horrendously low, then I would work on your subject line. And so if you just Google subject line, what have you, swipe files is what they call them. There's like little formulas that get people's attention. And so, you could add an emoji or you could add a question. And so really what you're trying to do is either be, efficient. So, if you're getting an email from a friend, you might say like, hey, like drinks at 10 tonight or something like that, which is a very like straightforward subject line. But then there's also the curiosity ones, which is when marketing comes in. So again, you're trying to open up that gap. So there's supposed to be an unanswered question in their brain in some way when you're trying to open an email. And that's what you're trying to do when you, write a subject line. And so before you even work on the CTA, I would focus on that because, but if you're getting open rates and you're not getting click-throughs, then you start working on your primary call to action. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So one more question I have in my list, which is about the basic email etiquettes or standard that one should follow. Is there any sort of guidelines or standards which talks about the number of links one should have in an email, the length of it, the format of it? Is there any basic structure in place or the standard guidelines for sending emails?
Not really. I mean, you have people like Laura Belgray, who always, starts with, a story or what have you. And really the guideline is what I talked about in the, understanding those, the 5 things. So really about, what is it that you're trying to get across? What is the primary call to action? Who is it that you're going to send it to? And then, the facts and data that will support, and that will actually make up the body and the format of the email. But everything else is, again, be personalized to you. Again, how do you write to your friends and family? And then that will translate over to your customers. And so everyone writes a different way. I mean, that'd be like, me teaching a class on writing, which is silly. Everybody has their own way that they talk. And so if you're unsure about how to start, what I would recommend doing is turn on your, if you have an iPhone, there's a recording app in there. Just talk, go for a walk, talk about, the things that you're going to solve for your customers. And then you'll find patterns that you say that you can translate into your writing. Because again, don't get so concerned about, the rules. Just, write and then edit later, because you can't edit from nothing. And, if you get caught up in, understanding, subject lines, you can tweak those things later, but the goal is just get started.
Great. Sophia, we have, okay.
Actually,
George is
asking, go ahead.
Yeah, I have okay. George is asking if we have any more presentation to show, like is there anything on the presentation that is left, or we are done with the presentation?
I think we are good, actually. Again, I just want to make sure that we were, answering questions, and maybe the unanswered gap is that, is my husband okay? And the answer is yes, he's totally fine. We have survived cancer. We're actually coming up on 5 years of being cancer free. And so what it really comes down to is, you need to build that relationship regardless, because, I found so many offers of help to be offered to me in just by building relationships with people and friends and really understanding, who is it that I could count on versus not. And I think you'll find the same thing for your business, that, if you build that relationship in advance, when something bad happens like COVID and you start losing leads, and that, your best customers will actually come through. They will actually come through for you, and you can rely on them, and you can use them to, bolster the next new opportunity in your business. And so hopefully that helps. Hopefully you, get inspired from, me talking today. And then hopefully, you can start a habit of writing emails to your customers.
Okay, Sophia, we have a few more questions in the questions tab. If you can jump right back there.
Sure. Let's see. Is having an email domain for your business seen as more professional than using Gmail or other free email services? Yes, absolutely. I know it's hard to set up, but I would highly recommend it. It just makes it look like you're a real business. And I know it sounds silly because a lot of us do use their personal emails. I mean, Hillary Clinton used her personal email for Department of State business, but it just helps you separate what gets audited versus not. Especially you can own the content that is in your domain versus having it on Gmail, which is searchable. I'm going to check chat really quick. All right, thanks for slides. Rule of thumb for email marketing B2B versus B2C clients. I would say that for B2C, I would actually focus more on imagery versus B2B. So with B2B, you can kind of get away with, text and longer emails and less design. Whereas for B2C, you're probably trying to get more attention because the conversions are actually kind of one-off versus, if you're a B2B client, then, you usually get referral business. Whereas, B2C, if you're shopping at Target or something, you just get like one item. And so you're just constantly trying to give new things. And so that's the primary difference. Best CRM software to use leads and retain customers. Pipedrive is usually what people like to use, but Salesforce, I think, has a free plan as well. Does that work? I think we're good. All right. Mac has a question. Not sure, haven't seen it. All right, maybe not.
Mac, if you have a question, please put it in the questions tab. All right, then. So I hope, guys, you are enjoying this session, and that brings us, Sophia, to the end of the session. All right, this was indeed a value-packed session where we touched upon a lot of topics and answered a lot of questions on email marketing strategies for businesses during and after crisis. Although there is a lot more that we could have discussed, unfortunately, we are limited by time here. I hope you guys loved this session. Once again, I would like to thank Sophia for joining me for this beautiful webinar. Thank you so much for taking out your time and joining me, Sophia.
All right, thanks, Rashmi. Appreciate it, and thank you to everyone. Hope you're having a safe day, and you stay safe.
All right, guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is on content marketing strategies for small businesses on 5th of August. So feel free to register for that as well. And a lot more sessions are coming up. If you have not registered, just go to our events page and register now. There are a lot more which you can check right there. To stay updated, you can follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn, and my colleague will drop the link of our LinkedIn page and Twitter page there. Also, we have been doing these webinars and these panel discussions a lot for the community. If you are here for the first time and you don't know how to find previous webinars, you can always visit our YouTube channel, and you can find all the amazing webinars there. So you can subscribe for the channel. You can subscribe for the YouTube channel and watch all the previous webinars there. And for all the business owners who are listening to this and wish to source high quality graphic design, and to build and want to build their brand, feel free to visit Designhill on www.designhill.com. On that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you soon with another webinar.